Thank you, Dr. Harren. So, as Dr. Harren was saying, my name is Abhishek Reddy. I'm an associate professor from child psychiatry and also have sleep medicine training as background. So, today's presentation is about approaching research with curiosity and using my research project, Screen Time Use and Suicide Risk in Adolescents, as an example. I also have a couple of other small examples put in there so that it helps everyone understand how early career medical students and faculty think and how we can inspire or motivate them in different trajectories of their training. So the main learning objectives, in addition to um, my project, is formulating strategies to motivate learners and early career faculty to pursue research, and also for our own faculty, recognizing barriers and opportunities to curiosity-driven research. You'll probably hear the word curiosity a lot during this presentation from me, so bear with me on that. I do not have any financial disclosures, no grants. This uh, presentation is tailored more towards early career or beginners of research, early faculty, but also other faculty members who would like to motivate young learners and trainees. And in this session, I will be putting in some small questions, and there's this um, thing called Slido where you can scan this and answer this question. I'll be having some question and answers so that everybody is involved. But talking about curiosity, what do you think contributes most to scientific discoveries? If you scan this, it will take you to a link where you can directly answer the questions. I do not think that it gathers personal data or anything. And I don't think any answer is correct or wrong directly by itself. It's like most likely. I think we have a few votes in. So yeah, the majority is correct. It's curiosity. But again, though, I don't think any other answer is wrong. Intelligence is important, persistence and hard work, collaboration, access to funding. But curiosity is what most Nobel laureates like Feynman and Albert Einstein say helps with most scientific discoveries. Um, So talking about curiosity, I was just going to start with my own little personal journey. And I was trying to use this approach because I'm a child psychiatrist. I like life's trajectories and stuff. And I wanted to use a few of my research projects to talk about formulating strategies to motivate young learners and looking into barriers in research. That is me as a 4-year-old, as my mother puts it. Ask very curious. I heard from my parents that I used to ask a lot of questions. And I still remember my dad keeps talking to me about that one question that really stumped him when I was very young or early, is when we went to the beach and I asked, why is seawater or ocean water salty? So I put that question in here if y'all want to scan and try answering that. Um, that was the 90s, so my dad did not have Google or AI to look up, and he's a very well-read person, but he was very stunned that I asked him that question. And in a few days, I asked more questions, which led him to buying a baby or child encyclopedia for me. So is it the ocean bed? Is it the time or age? Is it rivers? Or has it always been salty when the planet was developing? Again, I don't think any answer is absolutely right or wrong. I think it's most likely or more likely. So I think the most correct answer is, I still see some people are voting, so a couple of seconds. So the most likely answer is the time or age, because the water from the rivers brings in a lot of minerals, but when it goes and deposits into the sea, and as the water keeps evaporating, the minerals left behind make it salty. And it doesn't happen in a few decades. It takes, I think, centuries for that to happen. A little experiment we all can do is keep putting water in a bucket outside and let the water evaporate. After some time, you'll see minerals starting to deposit. It will probably take a few months for that to happen, but so technically, it's the time or maturity that makes it more salty. So kind of these kind of questions uh, growing up were very interesting for me, and I used to ask a lot of these questions, and I think that progressed a little bit into my scientific journey, and hence the power of curiosity, right? Curiosity turns observations into questions, questions into studies, studies into impact. And I felt that that usually starts a lot of discovery process. So as I was saying, I just, before I go to the main study, I had a couple of studies in the background, and I was going to use that to kind of see if learners from your teams come up with these questions and how you can motivate them. So this was, I think, that picture is from when I was training at University of Alabama at Birmingham as a psychiatry resident, and that picture is from the top of the building near the helipad. But when I was in my second or third year, I started noticing that different peers of mine, some read on the phones, some on the laptops, a few like printed papers. So my question, or what I thought was interesting, was like, how do psychiatry trainees actually prefer to read? And this simple kind of curiosity related question kind of became a survey research project. And so, uh, and again, you have to remember that was 2017. So what would you all have guessed would be a preferred reading method for psychiatry trainees? And it was like whole of the class. I think we had 24 people. Thank you for participating, though. I see that everybody's interested. I'm glad my questions are raising some curiosity. Let's give a few more seconds. All right. So in my study, these were the results. So I think the majority of them are right. Depends on what they're reading. And I had to fine tune my questions for the survey. So if you notice, out of the 24 peers that I had, um, majority of them read is on paper for fun, on paper for academic detail, like landmark papers or textbooks. For doses, they were doing it on the screen or phone, or even up to date. And for medication info detail, it was kind of split, but more on screen. So it was a simple thought with fine tuning of the questions. And I was very happy that this got published in academic psychiatry. For me at that time in 2017-18 was a huge deal, because academic psychiatry has an outreach to majority program leadership, program directors and fellowship directors and stuff. So there were a few lessons that I learned, which I thought would be helpful and applicable to most people. The number one is research does not have to start big. It can start with surveys, small pilot studies, educational observations. Small projects can be gateway to research. And also, supportive mentors are important. In this example, I reached out to a few of my mentors, and one of them said, well, I don't think this is publishable, or you can't get anything out of it. And the other one said, well, each person has their own preference, so you will have data all over the place. But when I reached out to this attending, Dr. Kim, he had recently graduated from a Harvard affiliate program, and he helped and mentored me and said, okay, you need a certain set of questions, you need to do this. And that helped me not only with the project, but also get it published. Some of my peers said, hey, you recently got married. Why don't you spend time with your wife instead of like doing projects like these? So I actually added my wife, who's now attending here too, Dr. Tutkur, to this project so I could spend some time with her while being curious about this project. So you can kind of use different ways to approach your curiosity, but also having a supportive mentor who can guide is important. The second project that I did as a fellow, it was as a fellow in 2019, 2020, is I was in my child fellowship and I was seeing a lot of kids having problems with sleep. So I was wondering, why is sleep related to depression? Is there a common inflammation marker as a link? Are they all linked together? And that resulted into my subsequent question. And this is kind of a timed question. So is depression, sleep, and inflammation, is there a link in adolescence? Is it only sleep and depression? Is it depression and inflammation, or all three linked? Thank you for participating in these questions. All right. All right. So this is correct. So depression, sleep, and inflammation are all definitely linked. And usually this link is talked about more in adults, and I had looked into more into in the adolescent population. So this project helped me with a few abstracts in the JCAB, which is the mother journal for child psychiatry, and sleep journal, helped me win some local awards, first author publications, and all during fellowship. And I was very happy that looking at this kind of helped me. But also, this was important because sleep influences physical health, brain development, emotional regulation, and also helps improve adolescent health outcomes. So what are the lessons that I learned from this project? Because I did not gather a lot of this data, but with my interest, I reached out to the mentors at University of Alabama where I was training, who had gathered data about kids' depression, inflammation, brain scans, and other things. But I reached out to them with the ideas that I was interested in, and they helped me link me to statisticians, the details of the project. So finding mentors, collaborating with them, and scaling your projects. I think all those are the important things that I learned from this project, and which your learners can gain in experience and information from too. Having connections for publications. By that I mean, if you're attending, knows how to submit the abstracts, reach out to the people, help with corrections, and also support from leadership. Those are the things that I felt were very important, and which evidence also suggests, which we'll come to in a minute. So those are the important things I learned from this project. Now, coming back to the main, the adolescent suicide risk and screen use. This was more recent, last year. And me and one of my fellows, Dr. Farabee on the inpatient unit, we were observing an uptick in adolescent overdoses on the inpatient unit and also on the consult floor. Many adolescent overdoses, suicide attempts appeared to occur late at night. Screens were very commonly involved during when we were doing history taking. And these were the observations that we were seeing in on our floor. And hence, we were like, okay, let's see if we can come up with a study for that. So, do suicide overdose attempts occur more often at night? Was one of the question. Is screen use occurring around the time or right before the overdose attempt? Are over the counter or prescription medications more commonly used? So those were our study questions. And we looked at 6 months of data. It was a retrospective kind of chart review, or you can also call it an observational study, as I've learned. And we gathered data, and we had like 50 kids in our study. What do you think was the percentage of teenagers as a guesstimate who overdosed at night? And what percentage were on screens right before overdose? Yeah, good. I think that's a very good guess. So the percentage was very high. So in our study, we found out that almost 65%, that's almost two-third, occurred at night between 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. And three-fourths of them reported screen use right before the attempt. So screen use is a very vague term, but we could not subcategorize it at that point. But anytime, anything social media, it could be watching videos, it could be reels or um, using FaceTime or screen talking devices, things like that. And medication type, like over the counter versus prescription, showed no difference. So it was either their own prescribed medications or over the counter medications like pain pills or ibuprofen, Tylenol, Benadryl. Different medications were used during this overdose. So I did expect a number between 50 and 60, and we were all very surprised that the numbers were so high. And And this study we thought had a lot of clinical implications, right? Like it helps talk about improving sleep hygiene, avoiding screen time right before going to bed, limiting access to medications. And these are tangible and practical teaching moments, not only for our learners, but also family members. And we use this a lot to kind of educate family members. And thanks to our Carolean media team, we got a lot of coverage to help spread and raise awareness. And Carolean Communications Department actually gathered this data that in about 2 months last year, this research publication was featured more than 3 times in national and international media. It was covered not only locally, but nationally in CBS and spread through social media. It reached an estimated 370 million people and generated about like 70 grand in publicity value. So I felt that a small idea or a curiosity point helped raise awareness in the community about the risks of late night screen use, especially for teenagers and kids, and access to pills, and also regarding sleep hygiene. So I looked into a little bit more about like data prevalence and trends to kind of help expand our study and see what's going on nationally. So greater than 90% of teens use digital devices daily, and average screen time, sadly, is 7+ hours a day, which is a lot. Nighttime use is increasing among preteens and teens. This is another statistics from National Health Interview Survey. This is from 2021 to 2023. Teenagers are spending more than 4 hours on an average on devices. And why does sleep matter, right? Like it's essential for growth, learning, emotional regulation, also helps with mood and helps with attention. Poor sleep can result in academic issues and problems with attention. Sleep also helps with energy conservation, memory consolidation. Um, about screens, a quick question. What is true about screen time and its content regarding sleep? Is any screen time harmful? Is passive screen time, which is TVs or videos, interactive screen time, that is social media, or games, video games, is that more harmful, or both timing and content important? Again, thank you for participating. The passive screen time is when it's TV, that's a good example, and interactive screen time is video games, social media. And this is actually like a new area of research which JAMA and pediatrics and sleep medicine team are working and talking about and doing more research. Passive versus active or interactive media. All right, y'all are really bright. That's good. That both timing and content are actually very important. So congratulations, Michelle Richardson. So couple of slides on how digital media disrupts sleep. Blue light, which we all know suppresses melatonin, causes delayed sleep onset. Interactive content increases arousal and alertness. Notifications and FOMO, which is fear of missing out, keeps the youth awake. So there are multiple steps in which digital media disrupts sleep. The first one is obviously blue light. And it's interesting, which I did not know that before, that children's eyes absorb more blue light than adults. And blue light for kids disrupts sleep more than for adults. Evening exposure delays circadian phase and sleep onset. And again, as I said, there's more research going on, and people are finding, and researchers are finding, that interactive media causes more sleep disturbance than passive media alone. So passive, like TV, are less stimulating, lesser impact. Gaming, social media, they cause high engagement, emotional arousal. So timing and content both definitely matter. I just put the slide to kind of talk about examples. A couple of them is, we hear that a lot on inpatient unit, and I've read that in research, when you use social media, it results into constant comparison with your peers, with other people. So if in the middle of the night, I see that some of my peers are either going on vacation or winning awards or things like that, it, especially at night when you're more ruminative and you don't get sufficient sleep, it bothers you more than during the daytime when you're more distracted. And that's something that I have noticed when we did our study too, is when you're um, impacted by active or digital screen time at night, and you're already ruminative, and teenagers are comparing themselves with others, it triggers them. They become more ruminative, and then with access to pills, it results into higher or increase in suicidal attempts by overdose. And to the right is passive TV, which is also harmful, but active or interactive media is definitely more harmful, especially at night. So poor sleep quality is linked to anxiety, depression, and focus. Sleep loss causes academic performance issues, emotional regulation issues. So it's like a vicious cycle, right? You spend more time on the screen, you lose your sleep, your mood becomes worse, and you spend more time to kind of distract yourself. So the lessons that I learned from this third or main project is clinical observations on inpatient unit or in your clinics can translate into research with curiosity. Um, you can also use your projects to send clinical messages to patients and community. And obviously, in this case, I had a lot of support from our department leadership, from the Caribbean Communication Department leadership. So all of that is definitely very important. So those are the main things that I learned from this project. And so just, I put this slide in just if you all were thinking, oh, all the projects that this guy does are great successes, but that is not actually true. I had a project during my fellowship, sleep fellowship. I was looking at sleep data and cardiovascular risk and stuff, and the data was inconclusive. My mentor said because of errors. And then uh, there is another study that I'm doing right now, which looks into sleep and depression and suicidal thoughts. Are they linked? It's been going on for a couple of years because of clinical responsibilities and delays with parental consents. We're almost close to completion, but it has taken a lot of time. And I have a couple of other future projects, but along with curiosity, you also have to have consistency and time. So I just wanted to put that slide in there. Um, so a couple of slides kind of summarizing everything from the first 3 or 4 projects that I was talking about. For learners and how do you motivate them is encouraging clinical questions during work. Start with small projects. Uh, Encourage learners with small projects, provide mentorship, and celebrate posters and abstracts. And that's so important because I usually tell learners that it's hard to differentiate clinicians how good they are based on patient care on paper. But if you have posters and abstracts, especially when young learners, young faculty are applying for different positions, having a good CV with research and abstracts and posters helps you differentiate yourself and also shows that you're interested in lifelong learning, you're a curious person. So I try to use that to motivate them too. Case reports are a good example. We all see so many interesting clinical cases every day. We can use that to help with careers too. So that's about motivating learners. Role of mentorship. You can help refine research question, choose designs, navigate data collection, um, help present and publish findings, motivate and guide them when things are getting tough. So that's the role of mentorship. And there are some common barriers which research shows and which I have learned through in my experience. Obviously, time is the biggest barrier with clinical responsibilities, and most of us are clinicians. So clinical limited time is a big barrier. Lack of research training. I do not have any formal research training myself. That is also a barrier, and you have to depend on your mentors, which is if you have good mentors, that's great. Fear of statistics. Though being a curious person, I was never good at math. So like having access to good statisticians, lack of mentorship is a barrier. And also the biggest barrier is when you talk about research, people always think about big things like data collection in terms of patients, blood samples. But you can start small and then scale it up or reach out to your mentors and keep scaling it up. So you can always start small, and the perception that research should always be big is something that we can avoid. And when you're working in academic medicine or when you have access to population, it also helps in academic medicine. You can collaborate with different people. You can use institutional resources. You can reach out to people who are doing research. And you also have a lot of curious trainees who are eager to learn and participate and who are also motivated. So you can take advantage of that. So the research journey, if you want to summarize it as such, is um, a simple question, an observation, a moment of curiosity, and encouraging curiosity in learners and early career faculty can help improve both education and patient care. Now, curiosity is not only for research, it also helps in different fields, right? It helps with lifelong learning, it helps with personal growth. So, as a child psychiatrist and a psychiatrist, I couldn't resist about talking about CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy, right? It's all about questioning yourself, curious about your thought process. A good example I can give is I was a little worried about the format I'm presenting. I'm using personal stories, and I was like, oh, would this be received well? But instead of the anxiety question, I turned into a curiosity question, like, let me use this format, which can help people be more engaged rather than me dumping data about research and talking about, oh, this will help, that will help. I wanted to use my own personal examples, and I hope it went well, but using Socratic questioning also helps with one's own anxiety and understanding oneself. Curiosity also helps with relationships, right? Like if somebody's angry at you, or if you're angry with someone, instead of like, I don't like this person, you can be like, what about this person? What trait is that is making me angry? So um, helps with relationships, also helps with leadership, right? I have noticed that the strong leaders that I have seen are very curious people. They ask me, okay, how's this going? How can you do this better? Or how can we work on this better? So curiosity helps have an open dialogue. It also helps with leadership qualities. And finally, every research project always begins with a simple question, and encouraging curiosity is always helpful. As Albert Einstein famously said, I have no special I have no special talents. I'm only passionately curious. And passionately curious is important because you can be curious, but if you don't do anything about it, it won't result into anywhere. Uh, I would like to thank all my research mentors here, especially Dr. Kablinger, who meets with me very frequently, who encourages me a lot. I really appreciate and thank you, Dr. Kablinger, Dr. Anita Kablinger, and all my research mentors at UAB, our psychiatry and child psychiatry division leadership, who has helped me with not only my projects, but also with the communication department at Carilion, which has helped me promote and raise awareness with my research. My wonderful inpatient team, my colleagues, and also my learners, residents, and fellows. Obviously, my family, especially my wife, who deals with all my questions on daily basis and takes them very patiently. So that's me and my wife with for the 40 under 40 reception that I had with the Roanoke magazine. And then I just only don't do research all the time. We also have a lot of trips to the beach and stuff. And that's from our London trip a year ago. Thank you very much for attending this patiently. These are some of the references for my presentation. And you can scan this and also type questions and they'll come up on the slide, or you can also ask it in the chat.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Reddy. So if you have questions, feel free to take yourself off mute as well if you'd like to ask Dr. Reddy questions. Or as he suggested, you can also put them here in Slido or enter them into the chat function. So I have a couple questions for you, but one question, just wanted to say I really appreciate that you shared that when you're doing research, thinking about research, conducting research studies, they don't always go as you plan or would like them to go. Sometimes things go sideways. And so I'm curious what you do specifically to keep yourself motivated within the whole realm of doing research when it is not always ideal.
That's a very good and really very tough question. So I don't think there's an easy answer to that, but what helps me most is I kind of think about how will this go, or where will this project go? And I think the original idea when I like have curiosity and when I'm framing it, especially with my mentors, the questions are so concrete and well formed that I feel like those in itself make it hard for me to move away or dissuade myself. And I have really strong mentors who keep telling me, hey, you've come this far, just don't lose hope at this point. And for the one that I was saying, which has been going on for 2 years, we had a lot of hiccups, changing the consent forms and the process, um, and had to make changes with the IRB. But at the end, you're like, okay, I've come this far. I have one more step to go. And also like the initial interest, right? I'm still thinking, okay, how can I raise this community awareness down the lane when I look into, okay, poor sleep 2 weeks before the inpatient admission has resulted into worsening suicidal thoughts. I feel like I can use that to raise more community awareness. I speak with some of the local schools and stuff and raise awareness about like sleep and stuff with the kids. So I feel like I use my research to help spread some awareness, and maybe that's a subconscious motivating factor for me. And usually I involve, uh, and that's one thing I think. And the second one is I involve a lot of fellows and learners. So I feel like when they are on these projects and I have like abstracts and stuff, it also helps them with their career and it goes on their CV. Um, but many med students have been involved and it has helped with their careers. And they come back and tell me, hey, like, thank you for involving me in this project. And I use that on my CV for my application and stuff. So I think it also helps me feel like, okay, I'm trying to help them with their careers. Many research projects, when they're very big, it takes a long time. And that's hard for med students to have like tangible outcomes. But when we are doing like research abstracts and stuff, I feel like it also helps with them. So I think there are multiple factors, and each project might have a different motivating factor for me. But I think having like any end goal usually helps. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much. Other questions for Dr. Reddy? Well, I do have another question for you. So, in your study looking at suicide risk and sleep in adolescents, you mentioned today in your slides, in your presentation, about the concept of evening exposure, and that exposure in the evening can increase that risk. In your study, did you all develop a time frame for what evening looks like? I'm really interested to know, like, does it vary based on age? Does it vary based on even just like the time of year, the seasons? When we're thinking about evening, what should we be thinking about?
So I think 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. was when our time criteria was, and we looked at those hours. But in also other studies with adults, they had looked at nighttime, more at nighttime, like after 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Is what I have consistently seen. Um, Winters seem to be more in the research studies that I have seen. But again, the diurnal and the screen use is still an ongoing concept, and there are more and more studies being done on that. And I think we need more data collection to kind of help, because in general they have looked at suicide attempts um, time wise, not associated with the screens. And that's also something that made our study very unique, is we connected like the time of the suicide attempt with the screens. Most of the times it's just nighttime in general, when you're more isolated, you have less resources, and time of the year in general. But our study does it more like time of the night with the screens.
Thank you.